Welcome to the Coach Speak podcast, built for coaches, by coaches, hosted by Jamie Bolton and Dustin Martin. Sponsored by Ray Crowther, providing the nation's best athletic training equipment since 1932. And R4 Football Systems. Accelerate everything by decoding the game.
Hey guys, welcome back to Coach Speak. Dustin Martin here with Jamie Bolton, a super special guest tonight. We got Coach Bobby Bentley, who's a South Carolina native, and Jamie's going to let you know what we're getting into. But before we get going, I want to shout out to our sponsors, Team Builder, Tsunami Bar Sports, Pro Quick Draw, and Glacier Clinics.
Yeah, guys, today our guest has done something very few coaches in America have ever done. He's built championship programs, led at the college level, and coached offense at the highest stages of the game. He's won 4 straight state titles, earned National Coach of the Year honors, and served as college head coach and coached in the SEC and FBS as a position coach and coordinator. He's seen what winning really looks like from Friday nights to Saturdays in packed stadiums. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on leadership, culture, recruiting, and player development for someone who's lived it all. Coach Bobby Bentley, welcome to Coach Speak.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me, and I appreciate the invite.
Yes, sir. So, we're really excited today to really, learn from you. We've heard about you, and obviously, growing up in South Carolina, Bobby Bentley, the Bentley name has been huge, and just having you on is awesome. But if you, just to start it off, if you took over a program tomorrow, and I know you just took over one, what are the first 3 non-negotiables that you're going to implement into your program?
I think the first thing I would do is make sure I can hire staff. If the administration's not going to give me the ability to hire staff, to hire the people that are my guys, guys that think like me, guys that have kind of know our system and understand how we roll, then it's kind of non-negotiable. Not taking the job, not going to be able to do it. That would be the first thing. The second thing is, how are we training? How's the school set up for training? Is it in a PE3 class or what they call a wellness class of some sort? Can I go in an X block before school, which is what we do at BGA? And back to BGA, they gave me, 7 positions. I could open it up. I could hire my entire staff. We only have 7 coaches. I think they had 14 before I got there. I don't need 14 coaches. It's hard for 14 people to get along with me. Like, I can't find 14 people to think like I do. So I'm not going to need that many people. But I just needed 7, 3 on offense, 4 on defense, and let's roll. I'm the 4th coach on offense. The second thing is, we're going to how are we training? We're going to train in the morning before school. At a place like BGA, we can't train after school. Everybody's in other sports. So we do it all before school. So how's the school set up to train your athletes? The third thing is, what's the resources? Do you need a booster club? Do you need to go fundraise? Is the budget already there? Is the budget already in place? What do you need to do to take the program to the next level? Because it wouldn't be hiring you if it was already in place. So unless it's an established program. So I think those 3 are the first things I would do, Coach, and we would go from those 3 and then build on those.
That's such wisdom, Coach. I mean, we're 5 minutes into this thing, and it's like, that those are the first 3 things that you also have to, I think, consider when you're in the job interview. It's like once you take it, it's like, okay, well, now we're in line to do all these things, but it's a big, those are 3 really great questions when you're also interviewing, because, that's what I've always heard, like, listen, interviews, they're interviewing you, but you're also interviewing them. You don't want to just take any job. You want to make sure that
100%.
it is set up for success. Yes, sir. And it's, and it's like you said, quality over quantity. Those 7 coaches, we need alignment. So if it takes 7 to be aligned and coach hard versus 14 just to have more hands, I'm with you 100% on that.
Right. And I think the other thing that I think is, when you're in the interview and when you're trying to talk about a job, everybody says they want a football program. Everybody. 14 administrators, 14 parents, they all going to check, yes, I want a program. Well, what are you going to sacrifice to have a program? Everybody wants to say it. Everybody wants to do it. But what are you going to really do? Like, are you going to give up some teaching spots? Are you going to make sure those people who are not coaching any longer, they got to give up those teaching spots? Those districts that keep those coaches that are not coaching, those teaching spots, you're just killing the coaching tree. I mean, you can't get
That's
coaches
exactly
in
right.
or tying up coaching positions that are not coaches. And guys, there's PE teachers out there that are not coaching, which makes absolutely no sense to me. How do you have PE
Yeah,
teachers?
that used to be a requirement.
Yeah, and see what started changing is when administrators became more academia than athletic related. A lot of coaches got out of administration, and when you don't have that voice of reason, it gets lost in the shuffle sometimes. Now, our place, they understand the balance of academia and athletics, but I'm in a unique place. I think at Burns, our superintendent, he didn't really care about athletics. He just took care of it though, but he didn't come down to practice and come look at our meetings and make sure we were doing everything right. He wasn't looking over our shoulder. He helped us build the program. But he also, if a guy wasn't coaching, they didn't have a teaching spot. You know what I mean? It's just, you got to have it hand in hand.
Yeah, I remember, my days at York, and this is back, in I guess the teens. We had, and obviously it was easier then. We had as a one horse town, so you have one high school, and for listeners that don't know, one high school, one middle school, and a couple elementary schools. The superintendent was at everything. The superintendent knew everybody's name, and the superintendent at that point was extremely invested in the football program, to the point where the head coach, Bobby Carroll at the time, was able to bring in a ton of coaches and really kind of set up that whole system the way that he wanted. And I think that made a tremendous difference in taking the program where it was before to where it was, and playing for a state championship to 2014 and so forth. But Coach, you're spot on. And when you were at Burns, what's one thing that now that you wish you knew during the Burns title runs?
One game my first year. I won 2 games, a whopping 2 games my second year. But that third year, my head coach, Bo Corn, came to spring practice, and he said, "Hey, man, what are you trying to do? I see you trying to run the option," because I had some Furman background doing the Furman quarterback receiver camp. So I was trying to run some option. I was trying to run some outside zone. I had studied Jim McNally and just thought I was going to be an outside zone guru, which, obviously that didn't come to fruition. Obviously the option didn't come to fruition. And he said, "But I also see you trying to throw the ball." He said, "What do you want to get good at?" And Coach Bo Corn set that in my brain my third year. And as you know, the trend set that we were going to throw the football. So we were going to throw it deep, we were going to throw it shallow, we were going to throw it in screens. And the rest is kind of history. That's kind of how we built the program. And there was a custodian after we started running that run. After one of the games, we threw the ball deep about 8 times one game. And, the custodian said, "Man, the deep ball beats the average team. The deep ball beats the average man." And that resonates now, because back then when Coach was watching us practice after those first 2 years, we were trying to do everything, man. I mean, we were gurus. I was watching everything and trying to run every offense imaginable, run a little bit at that time, Florida State, Miami, and it just was too much. And now we throw the football, and we have 3 or 4 runs, but we want to throw the football first. And that allowed us to get good at something. And then all of a sudden, once we got good on offense, we tried to do a little something unique on defense. And we still do it to this day. We run a 3 high safety, 3-3 look that's a little bit different. Because, most time when you walk in on Sundays, everybody's in a 3-4, cover 4. Okay. Same old, same old. That's what everybody does. Everybody thinks they got their own little unique piece to it, which they do, but it's still 3-4, cover 4. And most 80-75% of the teams run it now. And, we don't, our scheme was a little bit different. And it was literally, I wanted to be different for that reason. I didn't want people to walk in on Sunday and say, "Oh, I got to block a 3-4 or 4-2 or whatever it may be." So I hope that answered your question. In other words, I had to find something to be good at. And then on special teams, we decided we're going to block hits.
Establishing,
return the ball, we try to block them.
It seems like, Coach, you try to go in and say, okay, we need to have an identity in all 3 phases.
There you go.
And that identity is something that we can pour all of our resources in from our staff, from, the administration, the way that we train. I love that. And I know Dustin's going to follow up with the question, but I think, any coach listening, and all of us probably struggle at times, is finding that identity. And then also in high school too, coach, this, you know, whatever that identity is still has to be able to adapt a little bit. And so I hope, like, as we get going through this, we're going to hear about how you kind of adapted that mindset and how you've been able to stay successful with that similar identity, no matter who comes through your program. But I love hearing that.
You hit on that, you got to get good at something, and you chose the forward pass. What was your reasoning behind that? What led you to saying, you know what, we're going to be a team that slings the ball? Was it the timing, the era? A lot of people weren't throwing it, or is it just hey man, we wanted to be unique. We wanted to do this. Like, what was your reason you think that you chose? Hey, we're just going to throw it. That's what we're going to do.
A great question. I think it's twofold. Number one, not many people were throwing the ball at the time. My high school coach was throwing the ball. We threw the ball my senior year, but not many people. Back then they were running the I. And some people were running split back veer. Jim Few was at Greer and had a lot of success at that. And people running split back veer and I wanted to be a one back team and throw the football and focus more on quick game than I would drop back. And still the same to this day. We don't carry that many drop back passes, but we carry a lot of quick game and shots. But I would say the fact that it was a little unique and the fact that I was coaching quarterbacks, I knew I could, kind of bet on myself that we could develop some quarterbacks and find a way that would be a little different and would kind of be a little bit fun, a little bit entertaining for kids to come out and play football. We had 28 players at the time too, and we ended up having 190, once I resigned or
Wow.
went to college. But I think the other thing too, guys, I would like to hit on, and I talked to my son Schuler about this today, and I get everybody needs to be in the weight room. I get it. But, when we had P3 every day, we didn't lift weights every day. There's not a bench press competition on Friday night. There's not a power clean competition. There's not a squat competition. And there's not any type of weightlifting competition on Friday night. There's not one. I think you still got to practice football. I think you still got to throw. I think you got to build football skills in the off season with a football. I get it. The tennis ball, I get all of that. I've had receiver coaches throw tennis balls to players. That's wonderful. A tennis ball is not a football. Okay, they need to catch a football. They've got to do football things, and I hope that doesn't get lost with the young coaches now. All the things that you can do with the off-season program, they still got to practice football. You know what I mean? They still need to line up and run your schemes and understand your base structure in the off-season. In Tennessee, we only can do 6-man training. So every day we can only have 6 people with a football or trained football wise, but we do 6-man. So we don't lose the football part, even though we're training, football players, because I think that gets lost sometimes.
And in the off season, when you're using that, let's say you were using that class, let's say at a place that did have P3, how many days a week are you going to be using that? Like, let's say 90-minute block and for weight training, speed and agility versus actually on the field during that time? How would you split that, let's say right now?
In general, this is big picture. January, February, we were 4 days, in the weight room with myself and Coach Schrock and our staff. And then that one day we were outside with football. We were doing speed work and weightlifting 4 days a week. And then one day that was football. And now if it was raining, and we got an extra day of lifting and training, and we maybe go inside the gym and just step through some formations and motions. But just don't forget the football part. Sometimes we think kids know these formations and know alignments. They don't know that a hash is 18 yards wide. They have no idea. They don't understand the field's divided into 3 equal parts, and you just get them on the board and just go over football as well, just like you go over your speed and agility program. They need to have football knowledge too.
Jamie, how long is it taking you right now to get through an off-season lift?
Yeah, right now we're in hypertrophy, so we are 4 days. We're 4 days in the weight room, 1 day on the field, like Coach was talking about. But like our entire lift takes 58 minutes from excluding warm up. So we're about 100 and probably 5 minutes And
Because I
then
was just
so
thinking,
getting dressed and all that, that's a whole block.
yeah,
We're a whole block.
as coach was talking, I was just thinking if you could, even mix it up where like you still lift, but you get some field work in. So it's like, hey, Mondays might be skill. You're in the weight room, bigs, you're on the field. That may be your
I love
bigs
that.
are working something out on the field and then flip. But then Tuesday it might be, hey, we're splitting offense, defense. So it's going to be the entire offense is field first, or I'm as coach is talking, I'm just the juices are flowing. How could we make it work where we can get that more than one day, but not sacrifice the development part?
I think what we're going to do is we're actually going to be it's first block for us right now. So first block we're lifting, and then in the afternoon in March we're going to hit it 3 days a week outside for like an hour and 15 or hour and a half. Exactly. For like it, and that's only going to be skill development. Like we're probably not even going to install much. So and then April, I think that's another dead period or something. So we got to wait till May. But that makes sense, Coach. Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think we're going to transition now to talking about how you've done this at different places in terms of like championship program building. So 4 straight South Carolina titles. When you're making those runs and you guys are, and I'm glad we're talking about this now, but when you're peaking in November and December, like how do you structure your off season to make sure that your guys are playing their best football, late in the year?
Well, I think it goes back to what we just talked about, 1 day a week, January, February, 2 days a week, March, April, have spring practice. I think spring practice is great. I think it's a time for you to teach your system, teach your basics, your 4 basic runs, your 4 drop backs, your 4 quick games, whatever it may be. But don't try to get your entire system installed, and just your basic plays that you're going to run that you would run in the state championship game. I think that was big for us, is that the things we did in the spring were things we did in the season, and it carries over to 7-on-7. We do a lot of 7-on-7, guys. We go around the country doing 7-on-7. Still do it to this day, even here at BGA. And I see so many guys in empty, and they sprinting to the boundary, and they're sprinting out in empty. Man, you're not going to sprint out in empty. I mean, we would have, it would be a -5 every single time. You know what I mean? Yeah. But yes, it looks good in 7-on-7, and it hurts us. It beats us. But you're not going to do that in real football. So I think you've got to do things that are real football plays to get yourself better. And at the end of the day, don't get you got to have good players, man. When we won 4 state championships, we had good players. And then you got to find a way to get those players the ball. If I've got a gift, is that I don't know how good an offensive coach I am, but I promise you my best player is going to touch the ball. I mean, that's just what I know it works. I've seen it at all levels. If your best player gets the ball, you got a very high chance to win. And you got to understand how to get the ball to them and make sure you got a guy charting for you how many times he's touched the ball. And if you don't have a guy to do that, in some cases you don't. My first year here, I didn't have a guy. I did it myself. I made sure that Arnett Hayes touched the ball a lot. And you just got to find a way to get those guys the ball to be successful, because the fastest horse wins the Kentucky Derby. I know it's simple. I get it. But you look at the best teams, they usually have the best players. And if you can develop those guys that are your best players and keep them in your program, even if they play other sports, find a way to keep that kid in the program that plays another sport. Be creative with him. Help him with his practice schedule. Help him find a way with his parents. Our best player, the number 1 player in America, is a freshman, Maddox Porter. He misses a lot in the summer with us. He's on the Olympic baseball team. But we talk with his parents and find a way to, he's going to go to baseball those weeks. Well, heck, I played college baseball. My coach worked with me. But so many times we pull kids away because they're a multi-sport player, multi-sport athlete. This is high school football. Just think if you have the best player on the team or in the school, he's not playing because you didn't let him play, or so-and-so didn't let him play because he missed workouts because he's a basketball player or whatever. Find a way to get that 6'4" shooting guard out there so you can throw, corner routes to him. We've just always found a way to get our best players to play, man. And we didn't make it very complicated. And on defense, we put a bunch of fast kids on the field that could run. We didn't play a lot of big kids. Coach Strock and I were talking about this weekend. We played our kids that could run, and that's high school football. It's a little different in college, but you can play a lot of little kids on defense in high school if they can run.
Coach Speak is proudly sponsored by Glazier Clinics, the gold standard for football education and professional development. If you're a coach who's serious about growing your program, sharpening your system, and staying ahead of the game, Glazier is where you need to be. We're talking elite speakers, proven systems, real X's and O's, and practical ideas you can take straight back to your staff and your players. And right now, we're in the heart of the clinic season, which means opportunities everywhere to learn, connect, and level up. And mark this down, March 14th in Charlotte, Dustin and I will be there at the Glazier Clinic with our own booth. Come see us, talk ball, talk leadership, talk program building, and let's get better together. Whether you're a coach trying to figure out your footing or a veteran looking for that next edge, Glazier gives you the tools to keep winning. So head to glazierclinics.com, find a clinic near you, and get plugged in. That's Glazier Clinics, where great coaches go to get better.
Sure. And me and Jamie were just talking about that last night off camera. We were just sitting here talking, and I was like, man, the more we think about it, it's how can we be intentional in getting our best players the ball, and it may take more out of coaches, moving the kids around or having specific plays to get them. But then we switch the defense. It's like, man, really, scheme's important, but it comes down to, can you pursue? Can you make tackles and put them in the best situation to at least try to dictate what you want the offense to do? And it's like it's everything you just said, Coach. And I think that's huge.
I love hearing the simplicity of the taking all this information, because it feels like coaches have tons of information, but then hearing you, Coach Bentley, just talk about how to just narrow your focus on a few key pillars to create success. And I think it's, hey, get your best players the ball. That takes a lot of creativity too. And
that's where your Sunday meetings.
Exactly.
That's the Sunday meetings.
So talk about that, Coach. Let's lean into that a little bit, because as an offensive guy, I'm always trying to get my guys the ball in our system. How do you adapt your system each year? If your best players are running back versus outside receiver versus inside receiver, how do you do that? Do you move them around? Just talk about your process for that a little bit.
It's kind of all right, Coach. You go to Grandma's house, and back in the day, you eat at Grandma's house, and then she asks you, say, where's the cigarette lighter, or where is a pair of scissors, or where is the tape? She says it's in that right hand drawer. In that right hand drawer, you find scissors, you found needle and thread, you found fingernail polish, you found everything under the sun in that drawer, and it was called a gallimaufry. Okay, that's what you do with your plays. You do the same thing. You file them though, so then you get a filing cabinet in your brain. For me, with these iPhones, it's easy. I'm already filing plays right now. How I'm gonna get a couple guys that we have on our team. How we're gonna get on the ball. I already got it filed right now. Matter of fact, I saw one today, and I sent it to Coach Garrett, our receiver coach. So Coach G knows that's what we're doing right now. We're filing. We're building our filing cabinet. We're building the junk drawer, that gallimaufry, to ways we're going to get our guys the ball. And it's going to be unique each week as much as we can, so it doesn't look the same. So it looks like we're doing a lot of stuff, and that's what we do.
That's such a good point. It's like, hey guys, when we're scrolling on Twitter and you find this new play, don't like it because of the play. Like it because it puts you in a situation to get your guy the ball. Like it's a play you want to put in because so we can.
Yes.
Yeah. That's it. Like I've never thought about it like that, Coach.
Yeah,
like,
that's 100%. I love that. When I was at Kings Mountain, we were doing the same thing. Me and Coach Heron were in the gym during class, and Strace, the head coach of Kings Mountain, I was with him for 2 years, and he came through this play, and it was like this shovel pass to the H-back out of unbalanced, and they got orbit motion. He's like, Coach Bolton, you're putting this in this week. I said, I love it, because I've been trying to figure out a way to get our linebacker or /defensive end that plays that H-back position the ball, because he can't run a route. He's not a part of any offense. I was like, that's perfect for us, because now I can get that guy the ball. And we scored on it like 3 times. And we did it different ways. So we scored on it against Crest in a big game. on a 3rd and 5 at the goal line. We did the same thing in the second round of the playoffs on like the 20. It was just, but just having that mindset of like, ooh, that's interesting. I'm going to file this away for this particular kid. And then you can rep that all year and then you can dress it up different ways. I love that mindset. That just kind of went full circle for me.
Coach, what is your, we're kind of talking about, building a championship program back kind of when you were at Burns. What do you think is the expectations or the must-haves of your assistant coaches? Like what did you tell them? Like this is what it's going to be to take to be a successful assistant coach?
I'm gonna go all the way back for you. I'm getting old now, so be careful with these stories. I think I'm getting too old. All right, so I'm doing my student teaching at Clinton High School. Okay, I'm a Presbyterian College rising senior, and I'm with a guy named Keith Richardson. Okay, Keith Richardson is the head coach at Clinton High School, who is very successful. Okay, complete opposite brain, complete opposite theory than me. Complete opposite. He's more of a power eye, wishbone guy. I'm gonna throw it. I'll have one back in the backfield. He's got 3 or 4. He's not flashy. We're going to be flashy. But here's what I learned from him, okay? And I'm in his class, getting ready to student teach, okay? And he's my mentor. And then it just so happened that God put me in his classroom because I would have never been in his classroom thinking that I would be running stuff that they do because I would never run that kind of system, okay? But I asked him, I said, Coach, what do you look for in hiring coaches? And he said, well, he said, boy, by the way, he said, well, boy, I don't really care what they know. He said, I want them to do what I tell them to do. I want them to do the way I want the offense ran and our defense ran. Now, Keith Richardson is a awesome guy. And that just resonated with me in that if you watch them play, they ran it the way he wanted it ran. And he didn't care for somebody to come in like me and say, hey, let's go throw the ball every down. That's not what he needed. So with that being said, I take that to when I hire coaches to this day, I really don't care what they know. Are they a learner? Are they compatible with our mentality and how we want to do things? For example, I don't like a lot of staff meetings. I don't want to waste your time. I despise having to sit in a meeting and just sit there and not be home with my family. Cause at the time, I had 5 kids. My wife was there. I'm good friends with my wife. I want to go home and see her. So I always felt like it was selfish for a coach to make me be in a meeting. And I kind of am one of those guys. If you tell me one time, I'm pretty good, like I got it, coach. I'm good. And running inside zone. Okay. We're reading the backside, or we cutting the backside, or are we dividing? What are we doing? There's only few things you can do, counter are we going to kick it? Are we going to wrap it? And, we're going to arc the tight end. What are we doing? There's only a few things can be done. You don't have to stay up in the office till 1 o'clock and watch counter, in the morning. But I've been there and I've had to do it. So I hope I'm answering your question I hope I can hire a guy that comes to my office or sends me a resume. Hey man, can he learn? And will he be loyal? And will he prop the person up that he's working for? If he's working for the D coordinator, make the D coordinator the best defensive coordinator in the state. If he's working as an offensive line coach, make the quarterback coach be the best quarterback coach in the country. Prop up whoever you're working with. And I promise you'll be successful. I promise you. And I hope a young coach is listening, because I know that's the way it works. And I've seen guys succeed and I've seen guys fail by simply not propping up the person they work for.
That's such a good message for all of us to hear. And I think, I'm an assistant coach. I'm the coordinator, but I'm also here to prop up the head coach. I'm supposed to make the head coach look like he made a really good hire, and then also see his vision for what he wants the offense to look like. And so, and that could be in different, modes. I've been in places where it's like I have total control over the offense. I have a system, you can implement it. But there may not be a coach that wants a person to have total control. They may have a big hand in what the coordinator does, or they call the offense, and that's totally fine too. But whatever your role is, I love that you're supposed to be propping up the people around you. And then I like what you're saying, coach, because you're really propping up your assistant coaches, because you're taking an assistant coach regardless of what they know and then giving them the tools to succeed within your system. So you could teach them, the process for, landmarks on your routes, or, receiver play or offensive line play. So it kind of goes both ways when you talk about propping up other coaches.
I think you're building on number 2 point of that is you got to trust them. Like our 2 coordinators, our defense coordinators this year, they had never ran a 3-3 until this season. But you got to trust them. You got to give them the basics of it. We went to Memphis and studied it even more and build off what, our old 3-3 from the past. And you got to let them do it and just trust them. Are they going to make some mistakes? Obviously, you don't have to tell them. You don't have to tell them. They know. And obviously, I do try to strain them at times. Obviously, that's my job. I want to ask them, what kind of coverage was that on third down when it didn't work? Obviously, I'm going to ask them, why did that blitz not hit? But they know that I'm going to support them and I'm going to be behind them, whether it be, the PAT field goal coach or the defense coordinator or the O-line coach. You got to, support them too. And then, let them know that you believe in them and believe in their teaching. And if you see them having trouble with their pedagogy, with their teaching tactics, give them a little pointer. Give them a little pointer in how to improve their teaching and walkthrough or in the meetings. Go by their meetings and talk, see how the meeting room is being led. And, there's nothing better than getting a player to have a coach me, coach attitude. Well, it's also reciprocal when you have a coach that's got a coach me, coach attitude as well.
Yeah, being open to those conversations. We had Coach Perry Parks on a couple months ago. He talked about the same thing, that we said one of the biggest things that he does. I think he got this from the college world. He was at Coastal and UNC Charlotte, and what he does, he'll go into those meetings and he'll teach the coaches, hey man, when you were teaching it this way, I didn't say anything at the time, but then I watched it on the field and it didn't really jive. Here's a good way maybe come back and circle in another way to help that kid perform better. And I think the same thing with coaches. And I think, now we're I feel like there's so much turnover with players and coaches. You really have to tighten up your pedagogy, the way that you scaffold your process, because, it's year to year. It seems like we might have a new OL guy, might be a new running backs guy, might be, 2 new receiver guys. So now you got to have your stuff together when you go in and kind of roll out and implement your methods. And so
I
it makes
think
you a better teacher.
And I think, this is a good point for any like new head coaches that may be listening or aspiring head coaches. It's like, listen, you can either be 2 ways. You can be a true head ball coach or you can call one side. But, if you're going to be the type of head coach, like you're saying, Coach Bentley, where it's like, listen, we're going to do what we do. We're going to do this on offense. We're going to do this on defense. I feel like, as you were explaining it, you got to be able to be well-versed enough with the pedagogy and be able to say, hey, defense coordinator, here's the nuts and bolts, and this is what we expect. But I don't think you can just say, hey, I want to see this defense, but you don't have anything to provide them if they're not comfortable with that. I think, and that's a big thing, Coach. Like, that's awesome. And I think to Jamie's point, to add into your point, it's like with so much turnover, you can really, as a head coach, keep your hand on it. If you're like, this is what we're going to do. That way, if you have guys that work hard on staff that you want to promote, they already know the system. We're just cycling guys through and doing what we do. That's
plug
awesome.
and play, man.
Yeah.
All right, so let's Coach, what a journey you've had. What's been the hardest jump for you? Like going from head coach in high school at the highest level in South Carolina, elite high school head coach, going into college head coach, or is it like college assistant back to leading a high school program? What's been the most interesting or most challenging jump for you?
That's a good question. Being a head coach at a young age, I was a head coach in high school at 25. So, as a head coach at an early age, head coach for 22 years. And then I made the jump, or head coach for 17 years, then made the jump to college head coach. Obviously, pretty much the same, because I was still the quarterback coach, being a head coach, at a place that didn't have as many resources. So that was tough. That was a tremendous transition for me. We had 4 washer and dryers at the high school I was at. We had 1 washer and dryer at the college I was at. So that was tough. And it honestly hurt me as a coach, and I didn't do a good job with it. I didn't handle it well. I had a secretary in high school, didn't really have a football secretary in college. So that was a big, I didn't handle that well academically, mentally well. I didn't handle it well at all. I think the other thing, my transition was being a position coach, like being a running backs coach or being a receiver coach. Looking back on it, I wish I'd have done little more things, maybe separate from the team, like more just walkthroughs with just my receivers or just my running backs that maybe wasn't even on the clock, so to speak. Looking back at things now, because that was a big thing, like trying to teach a system in the time frame that you had. I wish looking back, I'd probably done a little bit different with the calendar, if that makes sense. In that being a transition for me because I was a head coach for so long. And maybe that would have made me a better assistant coach. I was always a quarterback coach. So transitioning to running backs, tight ends, and receivers, that was a big transition for me. But overall, football's football. Okay. Let's make sure that's being said. It's the same. Only thing difference between SEC football and what I do on Friday night right now to this day is the D-line. The D-line makes a difference on Saturdays in the SEC. It's a major difference. It's a big difference. And I'm not sure anything else is different from the Friday night football to the SEC. The biggest difference is the D-line. When I was in the American Conference at USF, and I was in the Big 12, the D-line was comparable to the SEC, but the D-line's the difference. Better rush. They retrace on screens better. They counter, running the counter. They squeeze better. They more violent. But at the end of the day, it's football. It's football. It's the same exact thing. The same thing I saw on Friday nights. It's the same thing I saw on Saturdays when we was going against Don Brown at Michigan in the Outback Bowl when I was coaching at South Carolina. You see that same defense on Friday nights, and they play man-free press. It's the exact same, a 4-2 box. That's what you saw. You just saw better players on defensive line. I hope I've answered your question with that.
Oh man, that's the Clowney hit bowl, wasn't it?
Yes, exactly. Well, and that's
the Outback.
That's the deal. Those hits, those Clowney hits, those Derek Barnett coming off the edge. Not only rushing your son, but you're running. I'm the running backs coach, and I got to block him because we're sliding away from him. That's the difference. Honestly, on Fridays, I don't care about if my running back's got to block a defensive end in high school, but in college, I don't want the line sliding away, and my running back's got to go block Derek Barnett on Saturday. So that's the big difference, 1,000%.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense too. Just even within, my experience as a high school coach, like I've coached at, 1A ball, 2A ball, private school ball, much probably like Battleground, Cannon here in Concord. And yeah, I mean, I think the teams that give you the most problems, I'm an offensive minded, obviously I'm an offensive guy, are those defensive lines where you have to game plan. It's like, we have to slide to this guy. We cannot put this guy on an island. That changes a lot. That changes a lot of the protection scheme. Now your other guy's going to be soloed. Now you got to have some communication checks up front. It's like, well, now what runs can we run at the guy? Probably none. So now you're kind of one-handed. It's just, there's a lot to it. And I bet it's even, more to scale, as the higher up you go, when you got to block a guy, like Jadeveon Clowney or even NFL, like the Bosa guy or whatever. But it's just, that makes a lot of sense because I think that's where the game's really won and lost, I think, in a lot of ways.
I was just saying, if you had a running back, having to block the Mike linebacker on Friday night, whether it's the Mike linebacker or the Will linebacker, it probably doesn't matter. He's about the same kid. But on Saturdays, it mattered, what the matchups were. You know what I mean? That's the biggest difference.
It's the sheer size of those guys. It's
because
difference, I think
it's going to cost you a sack.
The 240-pound Mike.
Yeah, it's going to cost you a sack, is what
or
it'll do.
Or 260-pound defensive end.
Exactly. Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. Coach, talk a little bit about your journey. How did you kind of end up at Auburn? Talk about that. How your your path was to get there, and a little bit about your Auburn stop.
Yeah, I talk to a lot of high school coaches that want to be in college. That's their goal. They want to do well and make the college jump. I wasn't that guy, man. I wasn't. I never was that guy that looked for jobs. I wanted to be the high school head coach at Burns High School. I wanted to be my coach, Bo Corn. I wanted to be him. I had no intentions of going to college, zero intentions. I had a couple of job offers to be a GA, and I never I turned them down. Didn't care to be a college coach. But I met Gus Malzahn at 7-on-7 down at Hoover. All of us used to go down to Hoover and do this national 7-on-7 tournament. And we would have, a lot of good players. And Willie Corn, he had a quarterback named Mitch Mustang. We had Willie Corn, a really good quarterback. And we just got to talking. We stayed at the same hotel. He was at Springdale, Arkansas at the time. And we just hit it off. He became the offensive coordinator at Tulsa. I went out and studied with him for a week. And he told me, he said, man, I'm going to hire you. He literally told me, he said, man, I'll hire you one day. Never even thought about it again. And when he got to Auburn, he hired me. So my kids are a little older, and I decided to do it. So it literally happened just like that by, you call it networking, call it whatever. But, old high school coach like Gus, doing what he did allowed me to make that jump. And Will Muschamp was defense coordinator at the time. So he asked me after he got the South Carolina job, he walked by my office one day and said, hey, you want to go to South Carolina with me? I said, heck yeah. He said, well, get on the plane Sunday.
Awesome.
I didn't even know what position I was going to be, man. So all these guys worry about what position they are, and they got a title. I have guys asking, Coach, can I be the title of coordinator? Man, I just got on the plane. I didn't even know what I was coaching. And I think that's why Coach Muschamp respects me. As he named me, running backs coach. At the time, I didn't know what I was going to be. And you just got to be a ball coach. If you're a ball coach, you can coach anything. So that's how it worked. And then, from
I love that.
South Carolina, we went on to South Florida and to Central Florida back with Gus again. And, but I never intended to be a college coach, man. So these guys have different paths. My path was a little bit different. I never was a GA. I never made the coffee, I never did all of that. So my path was a little bit different.
Yeah, I think that path's crazy. I mean, I think you look at Gus and what he did as a high school coach, with Mitch Mustang. What a great documentary. If you guys haven't seen that, but it's really, really good to see, he probably believed in you because he had the same journey. I mean, he made that college jump and then and obviously very, very successful. And that's crazy. What did you get the most from Gus Malzahn as a football coach? Because I know probably offensively, probably a lot different in terms of he's not going to throw it, more than he runs it. What did you pick up from him that you may still have today in your system?
Yeah, there's philosophical differences, but the thing about Gus, he always wanted you to use your influence in a positive way. He always wanted you to be positive. He was very detailed in what he did. He was always the play caller. He may have had an offensive coordinator, but he was the offensive coordinator. I mean, everywhere we've been, everywhere he's been, he's going to run the offense. And just the way he plans, the way he game plans, the way he is going to have rep the plays a lot. I think that's a big thing that he was good at. The one-word play calls to try to hurry up and get a play called out of the sugar huddle. I really love the way he does that, and I've copied that and even kind of modified that to an extent. I think the fact of what he's done on the backside of plays, on the RPO game, I think Gus was ahead of the average man on the bubbles, the quick screens, the little, cover two fade slot. We did against Arkansas, against what he did. I think we hit Alabama on it one time. Just everything he did off the zone read, off the backside of it, was a little bit ahead of the game. And Gus saw those things really, really well. He was a visual learner, and that's how he called plays. So it was kind of neat to watch how he did it.
Yeah, coach, that's got to be a really neat experience. You meet a guy, you network a little bit. He kind of foreshadows, hey, I'm going to hire you one day. Then he brings you on at Auburn, and you just get to to be a part of such a high level staff and be around a lot of great coaches. I mean, you're obviously you yourself, but you're with Brent Dearman and you're with all these guys who have went on Muschamp that are just phenomenal coaches. You know, when you got to South Carolina, you know, obviously you coach running backs and then tight ends. You know, like you said earlier, if you're a ball coach, you can coach pretty much anything. But what do you think you learned in your time there on the offense side of the ball, switching from those two positions, that you took an appreciation to that you still take throughout your career?
Probably being around some great coaches, man. Will Muschamp hired some tremendous ball coaches. I mean, Mike Bobo. I mean, I've been in his, in his meeting rooms. I've been in Thomas Brown's meeting room. I've been in Brian McClendon's meeting rooms. I mean, McClendon is the receiver coach with Tampa. Thomas Brown's running backs coach with the Patriots. I mean, I coached 5 years with Eric Wolford, who's the offensive line coach at LSU now. You know, I was a tight ends coach with this guy. Joe Cox, tight ends coach at LSU. I was the running backs coach when he was the tight ends coach. I mean, just being around all those coaches, I'm probably sure I've missed one. Kurt Roper, you know, who's at NC State now. Just these guys are real ball coaches, man. I mean, these are not guys that coach a script. You know, there's a bunch of coaches out there that coach scripts right now. You know, my son, we had to deal with it. We've had to deal with that. Coaches that just coach a script, and it's not ball coaches. That's tough, man. You know, you want to know the how, the whys, and you know, I was blessed so much to be around those football coaches when Coach Muschamp brought those guys in, and Rhett Lashley. You know, I was with Gus, so you would Rhett Lashley, you would Travis Williams, you would Ellis Johnson. I mean, those are the guys I got to work with the last 10 years of my college career. You know, Addie, who's at Nebraska now. I mean, you're talking about the cream of the crop coaching, Brian Blackman. I mean, it just goes on and on of the guys that I was able to work with at those college stops. And we're talking about real football coaches. Coleman Hutzler. I mean, man.
Yeah, I mean, that's got to be an incredible experience, and just picking up all those things. What are some of the things that maybe before you got to South Carolina you didn't know? Then as you've taken, well, let's just talk about the last 10 years of your college. What have you taken from like a passing game standpoint that you guys are using at Battleground that you learned at the college level?
Oh, great question, Coach. It's protection. Like, I'm going to go speak at a clinic this weekend. I haven't spoken at a clinic in probably 10 years, it seems, but I kind of quit doing it for a while. But I'm going back this weekend to do one, and I bet you somebody's going to ask me about a route. But, Coach, you better worry about the protection, is how they protecting it. Because in college, you can have all the routes you want, but if you're going against Mike Elko at Texas A&M, if you're going against him, you better worry about the protection. You're not worried about the route, because you got to block those guys, and that's what I think is more important right now. Is we don't worry about the routes, is we worry about the protections first, and we want to be 2.5 or less, 2.5 seconds or less. I don't want to sit back there and hold the ball. You know, we gave up 8 sacks this season. So the entire out of 14 games. So you don't want to hold the ball, and that's straight Eric Wolford. That's straight Sean Elliott. I mean, those are the line coaches I got to work with in college. J.B. Grimes, guys, he's a Hall of Fame coach that I got to work with at Auburn. And you just can't sit back there and hold the ball. You got to get rid of the ball. So the route is not as important as protection, Coach.
Coach, do you think, you know, at the college level, especially the SEC level, you see a lot of guys trying to establish a run to try to neutralize those defensive line guys that you're talking about? Because, you know, if you try to sit back and drop and throw it, then they just kind of pin their ears back and have a field day. Did you kind of see that in your time there?
Yeah. Did you watch the Super Bowl?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean,
I'm not trying to be funny.
No doubt about it.
You know, Drake May, man, I recruited him, and I love his family. But as you know, that was tough to watch. When you just sit back there and try to throw.
Yes.
It's not a good thing, man. And I know you said, well, Coach, you just said that's what you do. We throw the ball based off our quick game, and we're going to try to get the ball out and not sit and let our kid, quarterback get pummeled. But yeah, that's a big thing, man. Is trying to do more, whether it be screens, getting the ball out quick, play action, and then neutralizing the game with some type of run game, when they're just peeling their ears back.
Well, yeah, Coach. I mean, it really does make a lot of sense because with protection, I can now everybody's got again. We're seeing different stuff every week. We'll see a 4-man front. We'll see odd. We'll see guys try to bring in exotic pressures all the time. We've got guys doing sims and in high school. That's the crux of everything that we do initially. And if you don't have that tightened up, if you're going to throw the ball, you're going to look foolish on Fridays and obviously Saturdays and Sundays. But no, it makes a lot of. Are you guys more half line, like half man, half slide? Do you guys do big on
It's a little
big?
bit of both.
What is,
we try to do it based off who we're going against. We try to slide it one way, put the back the other way, but then there's some looks where now, based off what you were talking about, these exotics, we'll put our center and our back on the same side and make sure we can pick up those 4. And our quarterback knows he's only got 2 on the backside. So, he's got we don't like to throw hot, but he's got to be hot off number 3 if there's a number 3 over there, or our back can peel back and block number 3. But, it's like playing with dynamite. You know what I mean? It's when you're in the passing game, it's like playing with a piece of dynamite. If you don't really know what you're doing, you don't really know all the answers with your protection, it can cost you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Coach, what is your like base tempo? Do y'all try to go fast, or is it more check with me? Like, what do you like to do as a base at the high school level?
I think we have 3 bases, Coach Dusty. I think we go fast, no huddle. We always no huddle, but then we have our little sugar huddle package, and just being at the college level and talking with defense coordinators. The no huddle doesn't really affect them as much anymore. It doesn't. You go against guy at Oklahoma who was at Clemson. Man, he was some Venables. You go against Venables, man. He sees the formation. He's going to have your stuff called before the play. You know what I mean? So these sugar huddles and these variation of your formation looks. Am I making sense?
Yeah, it's like you're simulating you can simulate tempo by sugar huddle and breaking out fast, and it still puts the same amount of pressure on the defense.
Yeah,
so
and
now
then,
you
and
got
then shifting.
now they're breaking out quick and they can't get their call in. It's like they have to play the game
and then
like
shifting, like showing them one thing, but then shift to an opposite formation. Instead of 3 to the boundary, now 3 to the field, 4 to the boundary, 4 to the field, 2 by 2, putting the back to the field. Just changing up their numbers. And that's the 3 things we do. So we obviously go no huddle. We do our sugar huddle. And then we do what we call our tempo shifts, where we have maybe 2 motions or, multiple shifts involved just to change up so they can't put their cleats in the ground. And that's a Will Muschamp term. Coach, I can't claim credit to that. That's Will Muschamp.
Well, I'll tell you, Coach, your son, Jake, absolutely tempo shifts. Like, man, like game planning for them, it was absolutely a defensive nightmare, Coach. It was, man, he does such a good job at changing the picture pre-snap with shifts and motions. And it's funny, we played him, and then another defense coordinator I know played him like 2 weeks later, and he texted me and says, man, NAFO does a bunch of shifts and motions. I said, oh, yeah, man, good luck with that. Like, it's tough. Like, because, we may, as adults, have an answer for every shift or motion, but it's like, can we prepare the 15, 16, 17-year-olds to be able to handle that? It's tough.
And I think you got to do multiple. I like what Coach is saying. Like, for us, one of the big adjustments this year was we each had a super young team, and we didn't really have that personnel to shift and do the things that we want to do. But what we did was did like a modified sugar huddle. So our receivers, our 3 main receivers, we had like an H-back. So our 3 main receivers would kind of get lined up, but everybody else would be in a sugar huddle. So you have the running back and the H-back in the huddle with the lineman. And, man, we'd break out, and it would be, what we would call like twin stack, twin split, kind of the Gus Malzahn stuff. it could be empty, it could be whatever. So that helped us with communication up front, but then it also gave us that kind of that pressure tempo for the defense, but we were still under control. So that was another thing that we try to do. I think this year, I think when we go true no huddle, it is like as fast as we can possibly go, because I don't want to have the check with me tempo, because I feel like you get out there, you're 3-by-1, your back's weak, everybody's looking to the sideline, man, they're gonna know you got like 3 or 4 things out of that. They kind of got you.
Great point.
Yeah, Coach, we'll move to our what we call our rapid fire
Okay.
section. We're gonna ask you 2 questions and just try to get your kind of your take on things. And Jamie, go first.
Yeah,
You
coach.
get 'em
So,
going.
what's your favorite culture habit that you found actually works? Because there's a lot out there. A lot of you guys talk about culture. What's one thing in your program that your guys do consistently that works to, drive your culture forward?
Mayor Yager wore the number 68. He was in the Czechoslovakian. He was in the Czechoslovakian hockey match against Russia, and he was crying. And a reporter asked him why. He said, "I've been waiting for this game my whole life because my grandfather was killed in the 1968 Czechoslovakian invasion when Russia invaded them, and he got killed. And he scored the winning goal in the game." So I've taken that story when I read it to where each week one of our players or one of our coaches shares his 68 with the team. And, everybody talks about love and all of that, but love is an action word. And we talk about how to share with one another and how to encourage one another and to give it away. It doesn't cost anything to share your story. Some of us have good families at home. Some of us have trouble, struggling families. I didn't have that growing up. So football coaches raised me. And that's probably the thing I think our players know, that when we have a 68 meeting, it's real and it's the lifeline of our deal.
Wow. That's unreal. Where did you get that from? Is that a story you just read and you're like, I'm gonna tell our guys this and make this a part of the core part of our program?
Yeah, I was reading a book, Nerves of Steel, and I read it in that book.
Okay.
And it was like my second year coaching. I didn't read many books, by the way. I know I was a Presbyterian college graduate. Yeah, you can laugh. Y'all don't want to laugh, but I didn't read many books. But I read that Nerves of Steel book, and I actually got something out of it. So it helped me.
That's awesome. I love that. I love it's like you get to tell your testimony. The guys know you, what you may be going through that you probably didn't. I think Dabo talks about circle of trust and all that stuff. I'm sure a lot of coaches do. I like that though, that it kind of puts that story into perspective. Like, this is what we're looking for in your life. It kind of gives you that purpose to why you're here and why you're working so dang hard and why it should matter to you that much. I love it.
Coach, what do you think was more fun? Winning a state championship versus like Conway or Irmo, or like pulling off like an upset versus Georgia in 2019? What do you think was the best feeling or environment? Was it your high school or was it
That's
your
a good
college
story.
games?
That's a good question. Dusty, I'm not sure which one. I guess it's according if I'm drinking beer or drinking bourbon. I guess it at the time. It's according to the story. You know what I mean? If the story fit, that I would say, hey, it was Georgia and we was able to beat them between the hedges and smoke cigars after. Yeah, it was that one. But I'm not sure it was much better than, beating a team that beat us in the regular season this season and beating them, in the state championship game in Tennessee with a team that won one game, when these seniors were sophomores.
Wow.
You know what I mean? You turn around these kids hug you and tell you thank you. Oh man, that's pretty special. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yet beating Michigan in
That
the
is
Outback
special.
Bowl with,
Heck yeah.
Beating Michigan down at the Outback Bowl is pretty special too. It's hard to say, man. Like I said, it depends on the day and the mood.
Yeah. What was the best college stadium atmosphere you think you played in? Like, obviously Willie B is really great, but like, what other stadium do you think was one of the best atmospheres you've ever coached in?
Obviously, Willie B at night was always awesome. I think Georgia at night, tough, man. Tough to hear the headset, tough to have any type of communication. Neyland Stadium, when it's packed and they're rolling, say what you want. That's a tough one. When I've been there and done that, and it's hard. You can't hear in there, man. It's hard to hear yourself think. And I gotta say, Texas A&M, man, Texas A&M when they got it rolling and they go to kickoff and those guys start swaying, it's pretty tough too. I'd say Texas A&M, Georgia, and then Florida. Man, when it's packed, it's tough going into that end zone. That's a good one too. I mean, all those SEC stadium. I'm gonna tell you, Texas Tech. I was impressed with them going out there in the Big 12. Texas Tech was pretty impressive, man. Not as many. It wasn't 100,000, but dude, they get after it out there. Don't sleep on that stadium if you ever in that situation. I was impressed with that deal. I think it was the most comparative thing to the SEC that I can think of, though.
Wow.
It was definitely rolling this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
sure.
They had some energy. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, good deal. Well, Coach, man, this has been great. One, just to get to talk to you. We hear so much about you, and feel like we learned a lot today about your philosophy, your theories, where you've been from. Where all the things in your coaching life. But we get to coach, against your son, and or at least last year, and Jake, and just what a good family. I know Schuler's at Burns, and so really really good coaching family. So we're glad to have you on, and
I appreciate it. Thank you for inviting me.
Thanks for tuning into the Coach Speak podcast. If you're interested in being a guest speaker on the show, we'd love to hear from you. Email us at coachspeakpodcast1@gmail.com. And if you have a question for our Q&A segment, don't forget to submit it through the form in the episode description. We appreciate your support, and we look forward to seeing you in the next episode.